Hello, my name is Taylor, and today I will be providing you with a marketing report on the multi-billion-dollar tech company Apple. So Apple was founded in 1976 by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne in Cupertino, California. 40 years later, Apple is dominating the tech industry with a quarterly revenue of $46.9 billion reported in 2016 and a market cap of approximately $630 billion, managing 478 retail locations in 17 countries. Apple's mission statement initially went as follows: to make a contribution to the world by making tools for the mind that advance humankind. Since Apple's mission statement also went into a change and now reads as follows: Apple designs Macs, the best personal computers in the world, along with OS X, iLife, iWork, and professional software. Apple leads the digital music revolution with its iPods and iTunes online store. Apple has reinvented the mobile phone with its revolutionary iPhone and App Store and is defining the future of mobile media and computing devices with iPad. Moving forward to problem identification, what's the problem? Apple reported a 1% decline in sales in the fourth quarter of 2016 compared to its 2015 reports. Why is this? There is a declining trend in phone sales across the board, even for Apple's competitors being Samsung and IBM. And two, Apple's prices are considered to be too high by many consumers, especially in the international market where, while Apple is leading sales here in the US, it is not the top phone seller in a lot of other countries, including Asia and China and such. Moving forward to the situational analysis, nonetheless, by international sales, Apple has many strengths. First being its strong brand image. So Apple was ranked #1 in Forbes' list of world's most valuable brands, with a brand value of $154.1 billion and a revenue of $233.7 billion. Over 588 million users are reported worldwide by Credit Suisse, being loyal customers to Apple. Secondly, Apple possesses a high profit margin regardless of the volume of units it sells. So as a response to stagnant sales, as Apple is currently experiencing with a decline in Mac and iPad sales, most companies will cut prices or add features to their products without raising the cost of the product, thus decreasing their profit margin by trying to increase the value proposition of the product. Value proposition being the unique value that a product or service provides in relation to the brand's competitors. Nonetheless, Apple's strategy is a bit different. As a response to the decline in sales, Apple is planning to go upmarket, meaning it wants to move into a market with a higher price bracket while implementing a plan to increase the value of future products. Moving forward with Apple's strengths, though, we'll get back to that in a moment. Apple has leading sales reports. So even with the decline in sales, Apple remains a leader for a range of products in the industry. In Apple's fourth quarter of 2016, the company had a $46.9 billion revenue and quarterly net income of $9 billion. Apple also has a strong supply chain infrastructure. This is exemplified by Apple's product, the Apple Watch, which was actually delayed in production. So the Apple Watch experienced a delay in shipment due to an engine breaking down at Apple's China-based supplier. Luckily, Apple equipped themselves with 2 suppliers, so their second supplier was able to continue production. Apple also only made the product initially available online, which allowed the company to measure demand and manage production accordingly, as well as detect any quality issues that the product may have had before it hit stores. Genius. Moving forward to weaknesses. So Apple's prices are compared to competitors are known to be very high. So Apple exercises a premium pricing strategy, which was implemented by Steve Jobs and continues today by Tim Cook. Basically, the strategy goes as follows: offer a narrow product line, focus on higher end lines, prioritize profit over market share, and influence customer loyalty. We see this exercise very well by Apple with a narrow product line, a very limited supply or selection of Mac products and iPhones and iPods and such. It's not an extensive product line, and it influences customer loyalty with its services that Apple provides, and we'll get back to that soon also. Also under weaknesses in Apple's internal environment is a lack of innovation. So the latest iPhone models have only received functionality enhancements, meaning a faster processor, better camera, and larger screen, which does not outperform its competitors and puts it kind of on the same platform as a lot of other phone companies. Moving forward to Apple's external environment, Apple has a lot of opportunities that it can take advantage of. One being the investment in research and development in an effort to combat that lack of innovation that it's been critiqued on. Along with that, we have product diversification, so expanding Apple's product line. Although it is in Apple's premium pricing strategy to have a narrow product line, it can raise its profit margin by having a better, more diverse product line to offer its consumers. Lastly, forming strategic partnerships. We'll get more into this later, but Apple has already done so a lot with a lot of other tech companies. It even has a relationship with its competitor Samsung, who supplies a lot of its microchips for its core processors. But forming these partnerships gives Apple more share in the market. Moving forward to threats, Apple has a threat of loss of an innovation. So with its latest models having functionality enhancements as opposed to having like creative innovation as Apple is known for, many consumers are kind of losing faith in a lot of what Apple is trying to do in revolutionizing the technology market. Also, Apple is experiencing an intensifying competition from China and India, whose leading phone manufacturers are producing similar products at much lower costs. And that also goes for Samsung, Apple's competitors. They're both experiencing that increase in competition in foreign markets. Moving forward in the marketing report to recommendations, Apple is very good at promotion. For example, Apple had over 10,000 billboards in 73 cities in 25 countries, all for advertising the iPhone 6. And they all send basically the same message of innovation and simplicity, which Apple has held on to for the 40 years it has been making, that has been in business. Also price. So recommendations of price, I recommend that Apple limit the number of discounts and promotions to make up for the decline in sales and maintain a high profit margin. And product, to focus on Apple's services instead of its products. So Apple's goal is to go up market or increase its profit margin. Its best chance at increasing any prices would be to increase the price of its services as opposed to its products, because consumers already feel that its products are priced too high. Apple is known, however, for providing its customers with a high amount of value, so we can increase the price of its services to match that value. To implement this marketing program that I'm suggesting, Apple will need to obtain the necessary resources. So the resources needed will be more opportunities for product development, meaning Apple will need to invest in its R&D department, as well as centralized focus on forming these strategic partnerships with luxury companies and other industries. So Apple, like I said, has already formed many strategic partnerships. For example, it formed a very successful partnership with Nike and the Apple Watch, which is great because it targets health-conscious consumers that maybe weren't too into the tech industry but are very athletic. So you have Nike's customers going into Apple also. And then also Apple has just partnered with Hermès, a luxury fashion retailer, And that's really good for going up market, which is also Apple's plan, because it targets a higher class of clients. First of all, you have a increase in price bracket that you're targeting. And basically what it is Hermes is manufacturing the band on the Apple Watches, so it will be a Hermes branded Apple Watch. So it makes the product a little bit more luxurious, thus increasing its value, thus increasing its price and profit margin for Apple. So also to implement this, Apple will need to design the marketing organization, develop a planning schedule, and execute the mentioned strategies recommended. So the typical steps in implementation for a marketing program. To evaluate and control this marketing program, basically Apple will need to compare the actual results with the initial goal being to raise the company's profit margin and act on any deviations that occur. So we're going to compare the results that come from the implementation of this program that I'm recommending with the results of Apple's current strategy had it continued. So we'll still want to document the success of this strategy if it would have continued, and compare it with the recommended strategy that I am mentioning now. And any deviations that occur, we will want to either exploit any positive deviations by implementing the marketing program internationally, or correct any negative deviations by returning to Apple's current position in the market and lowering prices, which would not be ideal, but we can always make up from that, as opposed to completely losing our status as #1 in the market. If the marketing program is successful, Apple should see its profits increase, thus filling the planning gap, which is the difference between the results of the new marketing plan and the results of the old marketing plan. So should this marketing program that I'm recommending be implemented, Apple will see an increase in its profit margin, make sales, and also continue to be #1 in the tech market, as well as gain back its title as being #1 in innovation.